Who's out? Who's in as the Arizona Cardinals look to end a two-game skid, Brock?
Yes, the pressure mounting for the Cardinals to turn things around on the road against the 49ers. We're breaking it all down, plus full predictions from the entire crew and yours, PHNX Cardinals.
Hey, the boys are here live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. It's the premier Arizona Cardinal podcast, the PHNX Cardinal podcast, live on a Football Friday. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Brock in Studio K. Damon, Dawg, producer extraordinaire, behind the mic. This is your number one Arizona Cardinal podcast going, so subscribe, will ya? Bet365 is the presenting sponsor today. Download the Bet365 app. Use the bonus code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer. Find out why it's never ordinary with our friends at Bet365. Craig Morgan, PHNX Cardinals beat reporter, is going to join us later in the show. He's en route to Santa Clara. And speaking of Santa Clara, Cards are playing the Niners this weekend, Brock.
That's right. And some key players for the Niners could be out, and some key players for the Cardinals could be out. But also, they could get a key player back to the offense. Lots of keys to this game. I hate the Niners. I really do. They don't know how good they have it. They've had, tip of the cap for them having consistent, sustainable success for as long as they have, but it also makes me sick to my stomach. So yeah, we're going to get into all that. Cardinals have dropped 4 straight. Can they, slow down this team that obviously for another year has Super Bowl expectations? But I want to say hi to Dylan. What's up, Jess? How about Jason, Doc XD? Jonathan, Travis, Dylan again, Justin, the whole crew's here. Let's just say that the entire community,
call it like it is.
Yeah, has ascended upon this humble YouTube channel. If you're out there in the Twitter sphere, get on in here. Water's always fine, and we're gonna talk some football.
Sloppy football, bad football, but we're gonna talk it nonetheless. Cardinals, by the way, in those 4 losses to San Francisco, all of them by significant double-digit margins. But San Francisco
swung on you if you were in person. I was just swung on you for that stat.
Bad. They used to be good. Now they're bad. The Arizona Cardinals, I mean, you mentioned it. We got a lot of keys. We're going to open up a lot of doors this weekend. What's going to be behind door number 1? Is it a bad defense again? Hello? Is it an offense that, turns into a pumpkin after the opening drive? We're going to talk about that. I mean, this has been, listen, I've had time to reflect. I was very angry earlier this week. I'm still upset with how the season is going, but I've just kind of come to grips with the fact that, like, if we're believers in Jonathan Gannon, which we are, if we're believers in Kyler Murray, which we are, you have to put a brave face on, take one step forward and say, you know what? These are my people. I'm riding or dying with them, and I think that they can correct this. It should be noted, however, that the Arizona Cardinals, and I sent this to both of you today, have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. How bad is it? Well, according to Sheil Capadia, and I'm butchering his name, I apologize.
One of my go-to sources, for sure.
Yeah. Yep. He's fantastic. He works for The Ringer. He said, just looked at a list of the 10 worst single defensive performances so far this season. The Arizona Cardinals have 3 of them of the 10 worst in the NFL. Thus, they have 3 losses.
As Jonathan Gannon said in the press conference in response to a question that was prefaced with, you're giving up the most yards per target in the NFL. He said, that's not good.
Good for that reporter by asking that, by the way. Nice job. Was that you?
No, I was,
You're showing.
I was just watching the show unfold right before my eyes. But yeah, 3 of the 4, you said top 10 worst performances, top 5?
Top 10. So yeah, I mean, maybe they're 8, 9, and 10. Maybe they're just out inside the top 10.
We watched this team. I can assure
that's
you,
not the case.
At least last week's, it was not, just borderline top 10 bad defense. It was maybe the worst, right? Against Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels. It was awful. getting back on track on the fly against a physical team like the Niners, even with the potential players they have down, it's no easy task. And that's the thing that when we talked about the game leading into week 4 against the Commanders, how it became a Herculean effort to dig yourself out of a hole. I mean, we didn't understate that. I mean, this is, or discount it by any way, they are in a tough spot. I mean, we knew the gauntlet of a schedule, and we knew week 5 was going to always be there in San Francisco, no matter who you kind of took out of this thing.
Yeah.
It was always a tough out. And it's going to take Jonathan Gannon getting his guys ready to play, and then that team executing. And we haven't seen it on either side of the ball consistently enough to say, okay, well, then this is going to be the week it all comes together. They can say they're close, but we got to see it. Like, the actions now have to take over all the words that have been spoken between, up until now, but dating back to, when we start talking to people from this team this offseason.
Like, I'm sorry, and this is just like, I'm being very candid this week on purpose, and I think it's an echo chamber with this fan base right now. A lot of people say I speak for this fan base. I'm not sure if you've heard that or not. The Arizona Cardinals have made their bet. They have made their choices. They have not caught quote unquote bad breaks, right? A lot of this predicted that this could go this way if certain things transpired. Like, I look at a team, the Minnesota Vikings literally lost their first pick in the draft, and they haven't missed a beat, right? Teams are overcoming adversity every single week. The San Francisco 49ers lost what I thought should have been the MVP of the NFL last year in Christian McCaffrey. Oh yeah, it's fine. Jordan Mason's got 500 yards rushing. There's adversity being overcome by every franchise. And the Cardinals, nobody in this fan base is ready to feel sorry for them if they have a single digit loss on Sunday. If it's like, oh, you know what? If we only had Darius Robinson, a rookie who's never played a snap. If we only had Jonah Williams, right?
Well, can I say this? Can I push back a little bit? Because you did say something that resonated with me. It doesn't often happen, but it resonated with me yesterday when we did our little we did a video on Darius Robinson, because I felt like, hey, we needed to give a little bit more insight on D-Rob and when he could potentially return, and that's on our YouTube page. And I highly encourage you to check it out. We also talk about Jonah Williams, but you've got no snaps from your 27th overall pick, Darius Robinson, and you, of course, are not going to get any snaps from your top 50 pick from a season ago in BJ Ojulari. That can't be overlooked. Like, when you're a draft and develop team and you draft players and they're not available for you to play at all, I mean, you're going to suffer from that. Like, if you're like, okay, we're going to take this roster down to the studs and we're going to rebuild it through the draft. And then you take BJ Ojulari in the second round out of LSU.
Yeah.
And, he obviously, after the draft, he has a procedure. He takes some time for him to get
hurt last season.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then, we it shows some flashes, but nothing consistent last year. And then, he makes this big jump this offseason, according to his coaches and his teammates. And then Darius Robinson, we see him throughout the pre-draft process. You and I talk to him. We see him Damon and I see him in Mobile. And then, we see 10 snaps of him in preseason and the training camp. It's like, those were going to be your best players on defense, and they're gone. That's bad. Like, that's tough. It's a little bit different than being in a position to, hey, who's the next man up in the run game?
Okay. We're dismissing Christian McCaffrey that much. I don't want to live in that reality.
I didn't just dismiss him, but it's a little bit easier of a position to. I mean, it happens every year. It happens.
Might need to start a new segment. We might need to start a new segment. Are you a Frank Sinatra fan by chance? This new segment, we're just going to call it "That's Life." That's life in the NFL. You lose players all the time. Guess who's not hurt? Kyler Murray making $50 million. Guess who's not hurt? Your highest paid defensive players, Jalen Thompson.
But if you want to go off Ringer Boys, eye-popping stat that had you fall off your chair and have to pick yourself back up again, then let me just let's get the full context out there. Like, I understand, like, this defense was going to be far away with Darius Robinson and BJ Ojulari. If you go back, if you look at the receipts back in July, you and I are saying, if they can sniff 20th, like in the top 20 defenses, like, that would be a good year.
Yeah.
But you take those two players out of it, like, to try to get to where you're getting off the field consistently enough, it becomes brutally hard.
Well, but they put themselves in a position where they were so lacking from a depth perspective that it becomes that much more.
And I get that. Look, I get that. But
Like,
also,
they have a depth.
you have to like you acknowledge it that they're missing who is supposed to be their top pass rusher and probably
you want me to
their
acknowledge
best
the guy
interior
that was, okay. You want me to acknowledge the guy that was hurt last year and was fine as a rookie, showed some flashes, and they put all their chips into that basket, and then he got hurt again. You want me to acknowledge that player? Sure, I'll do that. Like Darius Robinson.
Well, not like bad.
Darius Robinson, I'll give you. He was having a far better training camp than B.J. Ojulari. B.J. Ojulari was an unknown. B.J. Ojulari on your team, if you're the Arizona Cardinals, should be your number 2 option at edge rusher. Should be an understudy to a free agent of note signing when you suck it up against rushing the passer last year. I am all for draft and develop. Let's do it till the cows come home. What was the calling card for the defense in Philadelphia, even before the Super Bowl? The team that rallied and went to the postseason year one under JG and Steichen and, Dirt McDirt, their head coach, whatever his name is.
Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. Nick Sirianni. Okay. That defensive line was flushed. We talk about flushed with cash. It was flushed with prospects and free agents and signings, etc. You can screw around and have Reed Blankenship.
They had Fletcher Cox, who was like a legacy player.
You can screw around with Reed Blankenship.
Yeah.
Let's forget
about Fletcher Cox.
Can I finish my point?
Yeah, please.
They had a strength. They had a solid foundation, and then they kept doubling down. The Cardinals have whatever Philadelphia is, if Philadelphia is a Rolls Royce, it's like I'm driving my bicycle down the street. That's the Cardinal defense.
Yeah, I mean and it's the tail. It's two completely different rebuilds.
But what I'm saying is,
you still got the same GM that.
Let me finish my point. What I'm saying is, you took this. You're running the same scheme as Philadelphia. You took their defensive coordinator and their linebackers coach, who now is your defensive coordinator. You're running the same scheme minus the players. And to make this defense work, and it's not this defense, I don't want to say it's broken. It's so talent starved. But we knew that 6 months ago when you and I were doing free agency preview in January. It's like, you got to do this. You got to do this. It's splurge. It's making a Christmas list, right?
Right.
They opted not to do that, right? They went to respectfully Goodwill and bought off the rack and wrapped stuff up. And then they turned around and they're like, why am I not, winning on NFL Sundays defensively? Because the players that you counted on, number one, are underperforming, or number two, got hurt, and you did not buy insurance plans to make sure that to get you through. Because I think they're going to win games in the back half of the schedule.
Can I say this? And are you still going? Like, how much
time
do I need to get to your point? Can I say this? That's the luxury you don't have being in year 2 of a rebuild.
Hang on a second.
When you're a draft and develop team.
No, who said there? Hang on a second. You have a timeline with Kyler Murray to win games now. What did we talk about this whole offseason? Kyler Murray. I never want to watch this team not play in January. You think Drake May is saying that with the Patriots right now? Even with Jaden Daniels hoopla in Washington, there's no real expectations that they make the postseason. Kyler Murray is in the peak of his career. He's 27 years old. And you have committed to him. Michael Bidwell, Monty Ossenford, Jonathan Gannon, they're all in.
Yeah.
Yet this team is not in a position, unless Kyler Murray plays like he did week 2, to support a quarterback. Making that much, you should have in hindsight. And I love Kyler Murray. It's like, should you have just traded Kyler Murray and got a bridge quarterback if you're truly committed to this gut job rebuild? This is how we're going to team build. Like, based on your rationale, should have just traded K1, got picks for him, double down. We're gonna get a bridge guy. We'll get somebody in here to hold the baton. We'll get Jacoby Brissett, and we're just gonna build up the roster. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say we're gonna be good.
No, but it's a fine line between those things.
How's that working out for them this year? Walking that fine line.
It's a tough scene.
Yeah.
It's an absolute tough scene. You take out who you identified as defensive franchise pillars, they're not available to you. Your defense is going to look bad. That's the unfortunate when you want, like, the thing, like with rebuilds, you very rarely have a franchise quarterback in place. And also to say like, hey, we are punting on Kyler Murray's best years. I think it's a bit rich for my taste. Like
how so? Explain it to me.
Because Kyler Murray is locked in for multiple years. This is the first year of that huge money extension that he signed. So if you like the players that you drafted, you have the confidence you're going to develop them, and that at some point, like you're going to be able through this method, give yourself the ability to have sustainable, consistent success. Then that's your route. Instead of like, okay, well, we had a good draft. Let's revert back to the old days and just throw money just so we have a backup plan for our backup plan. Like, I think that's a little bit like discounting like how much like they lost as far as some of these key players they drafted and want to develop. I see Michael Evans saying I'm tired of excuses, but like the reality is like this team was dog meat. Coming like before Monty Osford even took over, and then he had to clear this thing of all the trash that was left over from the previous regime, and he had to take a full off season and just take everything down to the studs and then rebuild it through 2 drafts. And he's done a fine job. Like could he be better? Like is he elite? No, nobody would say he's elite, but he's done a fine job so far. And then sometimes when you're drafting and developing and you lose 2 key players from that, you're going to suffer the consequences of that. And that's unfortunate. And everybody wants to go out and was like, well, why didn't you go out and spend $100 million on Christian Wilkins? It's like, well, we wanted to draft a guy. We wanted to draft and develop our own Christian Wilkins.
That's great.
We have to pay him that.
That's great that you have a plan. Like, is that plan going to be worth a damn if you're not around to see it through? And like, I appreciate I honestly do, your outlook on this situation. If you think that this team can win 4, 5, 6 games this year, and there's not going to be significant talk around the NFL landscape that the Cardinals are going to move off of Kyler Murray, you are outside. If you just think that they're just going to rack up single-digit wins each of their first 2 years in charge, and they're like, you know what, Kyler Murray, he'll be 28 next year. We'll do it next year. That's not how, I'm sorry, man. That's not how the NFL works. Jared Goff was on his way out of Detroit. Go back and read all those articles when they started 1-6. They're going to draft a quarterback high. They're going to move off of Goff, or he'll be a bridge. But they got their act together and they won a bunch of games, and it worked out for them. That's an outlier. That does not happen. And so when the Arizona Cardinals opted this offseason to say, we're going to draft and develop, and we're going to be pinching pennies in free agency, and the guys that we're going to sign, fair or not, outside of Mack Wilson, are not providing any kind of impact, and you take 2 offensive linemen with premium picks out of Illinois who are non-factors for you. They are not helping you win games. When you have a huge glaring hole on your defensive line and you can't stop the run, you took a 3rd tight end and a developmental guard that he's not playing this weekend. He probably won't play at all this year based on his trajectory. That's a long-term move. It was irresponsible. They had resources and they used them irresponsibly. And now the positions that they couldn't afford to lose, they've lost them. And now it's a huge liability when we watch this team.
I mean, I don't disagree with you as far as the misuse of a draft pick, top 100 picks on, from what we had seen previous to that, we had seen premium positions. Like as far as draft one.
When they did that, they thought they were going to be good. They were like, we can afford to take Tip Ryman as a 3rd tight end. Right. We can afford to take Isaiah Adams, who's not playing this year. The hell, you can't. You needed those picks to think about what they could be doing with 2 defensive linemen in the 3rd round right now against the Niners in week 5. Instead, you got 2 players that are making no impact. Like that, if you're Austin Ford, you have to wear that. You have to eat that today. That's embarrassing.
Well, I mean, it's a harsh lesson to learn, right? I mean, that's as far as like where your confidence is in Monty Osford's ability to build this team. I mean, where are you right now?
I mean,
because you seem pretty angry.
I'm
pretty upset.
We can't be like, we're draft and develop and then draft like we're drafting like we're the Lions. That draft in the 3rd round That's a Detroit-esque kind of draft where you're like,
I mean, they
we're
take
putting
Marv.
the icing. We're putting the icing on the cake. We're taking a third tight end.
Right. You
we're
took
taking
Marv 4th, right? You took Darius 27th. You won't seem to acknowledge that he's going to be a player for this team.
I've said that many times.
Max Melton.
We were in studio.
Yeah.
The three of us grinding. We did 30 hours of draft coverage over 3 days.
That second and third round for this show was not great. Like vibes were at
I sat there and I said,
low, considering the high we were on.
Needs to be another defensive lineman. And everybody's like, no, you can't. We're good. Did you see the players we got? The defensive line is exactly the same as last year.
We were on the Johnny Newton train back then.
I would have taken Johnny Newton at 35. Mr. Draft and Develop. And I like Max Melton. He's going to be a good player.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it over. I mean, they needed a defensive back. People love Max Melton's Pro Football Focus grade. They don't know what it means, but
I'm not upset at you. Can I just say that? I appreciate your outlook. I just think, can I just say this? As one of your closest friends in the world, I think it's a smidge naive. I think you're a little bit naive because you're walking around the facility and you know what? Everybody feels good. The timeline is the timeline.
Yeah.
I bet Cliff Kingsbury felt good after he got that contract extension and then he got his butt fired less than 12 months later. The NFL is so cruel as it relates to the perception of what you're doing from week to week. That's why we love it. Monty Ossenford, I mean, I'm not going to do this in my home setup here. He kind of kicked his feet up a little bit. He did not feel like he needed to go out and say, I'm going to put the game film on against the Niners last year when Christian McCaffrey took our soul twice. What do we need to do to make sure we don't get embarrassed like that again? Instead, it was like, you know what? Here's a coupon. And now it's Jordan Mason. Different names, potentially the same results. Welcome to the show. Like this video.
To say that he's just kicking his feet up, it's a little, I mean, you're coming from a standpoint of what you witnessed on Sunday is the Cardinals, and that's it. That team that was uncompetitive on a single Sunday.
Oh, they have the worst defense in the NFL through 4 games.
I understand, especially last week. Like last weekend, I just said it. It was bad. It was brutal. But the people that you have gone on record many times, numerous times, and Jonathan Gannon, Monty Ossenford, that you put that you think that they are the guys to take the Cardinals out of the darkness. Like you're expecting that what we witnessed in week 4 on Sunday is going to be the norm going forward, and they can't get themselves out.
I think they're going to play more
because the way things do change is Gannon is going to get his team prepared. It's going to look more. It's going to resemble more like the team that was playing a little above their skis. And they were playing a little bit, they were competing with teams that people didn't expect them to compete with.
Competing, not winning, though.
Well, it needs to, and you also, that's what I think they have to show between now and the end of the season, that they can win those games. They have to. You
have the worst defense in the NFL. And if it's not officially official, I think we all agree, like, there's a chance it becomes officially official after this weekend. I'm just being real. I'm not rooting for that to happen.
Yeah,
your head coach is a defensive savant. I think we all really like Nick Rallis. I like what I saw from Nick Rallis a lot last year. We've met with Nick Rallis. I think Nick Rallis and Jonathan Gannon just didn't forget how to coach defense. So what's the common denominator? When you have the worst unit in the NFL and you don't think it's coaching, well, what are we going to point to? We're going to point to the guy who's picking the players and putting the roster together. And I'm sorry, in today's NFL, you should be able to put together a respectable unit in 2 off seasons. I don't care if you're starting with paper mache, and that's how we're calling it, right? They stripped it down. But let's look at the starters. Zaven Collins was around. They inherited him. They love Zaven Collins.
They extended him.
Budda Baker was around. Jalen Thompson was around, right? I mean, so 3 of the 11 starters they inherited. And then I'm probably forgetting a couple players here and there. Maybe Dennis Gardeck. He was around. There's another guy that they seem to has a lifetime contract. Like they're playing some players from the prior regime. Those other 7 or 8 spots, I'm sorry, you can't go 2 off seasons, 4 players every off season to try to get some guys in here. You have the worst defense in the NFL. You have to wear it. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to come on the show and make excuses and talk about timelines for a unit that's this bad.
But you won't acknowledge that they're missing 2 key pieces to it.
No, because I don't view
Right.
BJ Ojulari was.
Where are those guys?
Was a perception.
They're not available. Yeah.
What did BJ Ojulari look like in training camp?
He looked fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I never was
Darius,
tweeting out like,
I think
hey, he's a game wrecker. He's making big play after big play.
I
mean, he got hurt before the first preseason game, didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't. He's been gone for a while. I think that I'm with you in hindsight. Like in August, we wanted them to work people out. We wanted them to make a move. Like, it probably would have been a mistake to trade for Matthew Judon, right? Even though he's part of a team that's 2-2 right now in Atlanta. I don't know what his numbers are, but again, you guys just got to go back to. I think, and Damon's mentioned this before. Had the draft been before free agency, and it'll never do this. It'll never be this way. They probably would have been able to identify their needs a little bit more. But man, they're just. I don't know how you correct this, because this is the NFL. The Miami Dolphins, when we go to Miami later this month, like, I expect Tua to play in that game. I expect Justin Herbert to play at full strength in a couple of weeks. Like Aaron Rodgers, Caleb Williams, like you're gonna play real offenses with real players. I know we make fun of the Bears offense, so put them off to the side for a second. Like, you're not. There's no Tennessee on your schedule. There's no Will Levis to save this defense. So it's like, are you at some point gonna opt to make a change? But if we feel like it's the coaching, then what can be done? What can be done, Bo? I'm asking you legitimately, sincerely, what can be done defensively?
I mean, look, help needs to be on the way. You need to get Darius back in there. And
you think one player is going to make that much difference?
I think it will certainly help. I mean, when you got Angelo Blackson out there playing a spot starting before he gets injured and lost for the year, I mean, that's tough. Like, they're down 3 of the players that they were expecting to be in that defensive rotation. They were down that last week.
Yeah.
And, it helps, hopefully, if you get Khariz Tonga back. And I'm not saying Tonga is the savior of your defensive line, but it helps. Any little bit helps. Like, it wasn't the best unit. It was a step up from last year, which couldn't get worse. And then you lose from that, and it becomes tough to just be competitive. And that's unfortunate. But you added 3 players in free agency, from Jones to Nichols to Tonga, to in the draft you take Darius Robinson. Like, when you're filling out your roster, like, there's just not a lot of, like, how many guys can you sign and keep in that room to compete? They're going to think, hey, I'm going to be able to get viable snaps for this organization.
I can't believe a team that couldn't sack the quarterback last year didn't add an edge rusher this offseason. That's laughably bad. No edge rushers to speak of this weekend on the injury report, though. That's good.
Hey,
how about it?
Now you're looking at it from a positive angle. Let's take a look at this injury report. This is the Cardinals. As you mentioned, Isaiah Adams is out. That thumb injury. Garrett Williams, big blow to the defense, out, dealing with a sore groin. Kelvin Beachum, he did not practice Wednesday, was back at a limited capacity Thursday, Friday, questionable. But I would imagine he's going to be in there at right tackle for the Cardinals. Christian Jones, his practice window open. So he's been designated return. He hasn't been activated. So if he's going to be available on Sunday, he's going to have to be activated tomorrow. But he's questionable. I don't know. I think they probably elevate Charlie Heck one more time. Matt Prater returned to practice today. That's kind of big for the Cardinals. I didn't notice any wrap on his non-kicking knee, which is what's bothering him here, is they specify left knee. He's officially questionable. I think Prater's gonna play. They might elevate Ryland just as an emergency. So that's really kind of the gist of the injury report.
Garrett Williams, arguably your best defender this year, par for the course.
Yeah, and look, you're going up against the team, and Brock Purdy that likes to look over the middle of the field, find his tight ends and his slot receiver, Deebo Samuel. So it's not ideal.
San Francisco has their own set of injuries, but first, Jonathan Gannon spoke with the media, as did Paris Johnson Jr. Bo. What they have to share?
Yeah, it was just kind of the update on the injured players from JG here.
Trey McBride has cleared. He'll be good to go. KT had a really good day yesterday. He'll practice today. We'll wait on him the next couple days. Sure you guys saw Matt Prater early in the week had a little bit of soreness. So we'll see how the next 2 days go for him. But he's doing pretty good. Other than that, I think pretty clean. Friday, normal Friday here, and Saturday travel and go play a game on Sunday.
So Trey McBride, didn't even mention he was at the bottom of that. He was full. He's out of concussion protocol, as JG said, and that's huge. Like as you look at an offense that needs to get back on track, and Trey was in for the bulk of the Lions game where they only put up 13 points. He comes back and it gives you a little bit better of an opportunity to get things going the right way, but still was in there just as much when they weren't going well against Detroit.
I think this has to be an offensive game. We both feel that way. Like, and Trey's one of your best players.
Well, I mean, like, can you? The thing is, like, you feel like you're out of options on defense. Before Darius becomes available. I mean, that's your only like. Okay, there's where they can start to maybe get back on track, and even then, so what does that look like? But the offense, the strength of this team, 13 and 14 points respectively, is just not enough. Like with this defense, it's not going to beat any of the 31 teams.
No. Cardinals are going to have, I think, some real matchups that they can exploit with their offense against San Francisco's defense. We're going to talk about who may or may not play here next up on PHNX Cardinals. But first, let me tell you about our friends at Game Time. Listen, I don't know if you know this or not. Cardinals, after this 2-game road trip at Santa Clara and then, of course, at Green Bay, they come back to Arizona. What will their record be? Well, I can tell you right now, you can get into the building for, I think, $26. Not too shabby. And then how about this? How about a matchup? Arizona State football hosting Kansas tomorrow. Kickoff's 5 p.m. in Tempe, $26 as well. Game Time's going to hook you up right now. If you haven't taken advantage, what are you waiting for? The bonus code is PHNX, $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. And again, like maybe sports isn't your bag. Maybe, you're thinking about taking a loved one, your spouse, significant other to an event, a concert. They got all that too. I could spend hours on Game Time. Number one, because I love the interface. It's so cut and dry. It's so easy to follow. It's not fluffed up. This is how much this costs. You're going to save money because it's Game Time, because they are the best. They have flash deals. Suns action this year. Like, you miss tip-off for a Suns game, you can go in first quarter, second quarter, into the second half, and you're going to save big bucks. Speaking of big bucks savings, download the Game Time app, create an account. Again, bonus code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Bo? It's Game Time.
It's Game Time, and if it's time to upgrade your flooring in your home, your house, your apartment, your condo, well, why not do it with our friends over at Empire Today? It's quick, it's professional installation, and has a price match guarantee. You got to love all three of those things. Empire Today is also offering $350 off new flooring to our listeners, exclusive to our listeners, which is beautiful. Go to empiretoday.com/PHNX. That's empiretoday.com/PHNX. Use the promo code PHNX as well, and you can start your journey to upgrading your flooring with $350 off right off the bat. Easy, quick, convenient. That's what you're looking for, but it's not going to be cost cutting or finding shortcuts as far as your flooring needs go, because that would be disastrous. You don't want to be, next thing you know, in the dirt, falling through your floors into the basement or whatever might be underneath your house because you went cheapo on your floors. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to put you up and set you up great with Empire Today, with their very knowledgeable sales associates and their virtual floor designer. Check it out for yourself and save some money doing so. EmpireToday.com/PHNX.
Love our friends at Empire today. Love our friends in the chat. Keep those comments coming. Hit that like button. A lot of people letting their voices heard. And again, just because you don't agree with myself or Bo or both of us or Damon Dawg, your opinion matters. Let your opinion be known in the chat. These are trying times, man. Like, I did not think we were going to be having these kind of conversations a month in, but that's the NFL and that's this podcast. And we're not here. I joke around with my co-hosts, but I mean, we're here to give you guys a platform to talk about what you want to talk about with this franchise.
Absolutely. You might be with Johnny and just slinging horrible things my way because
out of respect.
Yeah, all due respect, I'm a water carrying shill boy for the organization. That happen.
Respectfully.
Right, respectfully. Yeah. When he says it makes it all better because I know he's my friend.
Best friends. Damon, can I ask you, you listen to Bo and I go back and forth and, we get your opinion, but I want to know definitively, like, do you agree with me? Do you agree with Bo, or are you somewhere in the middle?
I hate to do this because I feel like he's about to jump the table at me right now, but I definitely align with you more so on the lack of investment into the defensive line.
Yeah.
I think Darius Robinson, you expected him to be a major piece, but also to be banking on a rookie and a second-year leap from BJ Ojulari with no contingency plan is I just don't think it's good enough.
Turn your mic off.
Peace out.
I just hear a couple guys agree on this show. It makes everybody sick. We know that.
I don't think that
nobody wants to see Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith just shake hands and say, "Hey, I agree with you."
No one wants to see Skip Bayless, period. I think
I don't mind that they didn't go out and sign Christian Wilkins or Daniel Hunter. That's not really where my problems are at. Why not get a Jonathan Grenard? Why not get an Andrew Van Ginkel? Why not get some of those more mid-priced edge rusher free agents? I feel like those guys could have genuinely changed the Cardinals season thus far, and you have money there just sitting there.
Just collecting interest, right? That's what it's doing. It's doing something. His cap money is working for him right now, Monty Osfort. Is that
really? I'm really enjoying it. And I love the people that are like, Bidwell won't spend. That's Bidwell.
Wrong.
That's the salary cap. Bidwell's not pocketing that money. That money just rolls over for the Cardinals to spend eventually. That doesn't get written off. This isn't like Michael Scott when he buys.
They have to reach a floor, and the money that they're not spending now, they're going to have to spend down the road. Yeah.
It's Burlington Coat Factory, Michael Scott. He can't choose between. He's got a surplus, and he can't choose between the chair and the printer. That's what people think Michael Bidwell's doing. He's just taking this $22 million. Come on, guys. You know that's not true. CBK, Bo holding it down for all the non-man babies who don't cry themselves to sleep after their sports teams lose.
See what you just did, Damon? You just put yourself in the man baby category.
That's fine. I mean, I just have an opinion based off of team building philosophy that I defer with Monty Ossenfort with, and that's okay. I feel like that's fine.
Honestly, CBK, like I respect your opinion. I just can't. I'm not vibing with a team that loses this much. I don't want to watch losing seasons every year. I would like my team to try to win games.
Yeah, but I also don't. I love Ozzy too, and he's saying this, and I see this a lot throughout the chat. Like, if you try to look at it from any logical standpoint, like where this roster went wrong to start 1-3, and that you just say, well, maybe this is why it happened. People are like, well, that's a loser mindset. You're a loser and you don't ever want to win. And this is why they're never going to win. It's like, no, I'm just trying to look at where things went wrong. I'm not trying to justify them. I'm not trying to I'm just trying to look at it from a standpoint of how maybe Monty Osfort was trying to view it instead of, we need defensive linemen. So just throw all the cap dollars and just go get players. Please get players
I'll back you up
and that are productive.
We did the show and you were like, they need to sign some of these notable free agents. Like you were in that camp for sure. And we both sat here and we waited and we waited and we waited and they didn't do anything. And we said, boy, does this put a lot of pressure on the players that they're drafting.
Yeah.
Boy, do they need to hit on these guys. And guess what happened? Like, it's twofold because the guys that they did sign and pinch pennies on are not good or got hurt. and or not good. There's a combination of that, and then you lose Ojulari, and then you lose Darius Robinson. And I'm sure if you sat down with Monty Ossenford, he would say, yeah, we've had a tough break with injuries. I don't buy that. I don't accept that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear excuses about injuries. He probably wouldn't say that because knowing his integrity, but like figure it out. You do not have enough credibility to be this bad defensively 2 years in a row. If we're sitting here and it's early January and this team sucks it up all year defensively, like we're gonna have real problems. I don't know how you sell that to we'll fix it. We got it. No, guys, we'll take care of it. You don't have it. You don't have a good idea of how to team build this defense right now.
Yeah.
I think it's either an F or it's an incomplete. I love what you're doing offensively. I think Petzine's gonna figure it out. He better. But defensively, it's like what's your vision for this defense?
Well, I mean, if the offense doesn't figure it out, this will be a lost season.
I think it can be a lost season even if they figure it out.
I mean, if the offense is out there competing, I mean, as you saw like last night, when you can just move the ball offensively, it does wonders even for a bad defense that can't get off the field. So, and if you can kind of even mistake your way into a turnover or something or a bad play from the opposition.
Maybe Ohio State will have a generational edge rusher that falls to the Cardinals, and they can just keep checking that box. And we can go through. So it's 11 players on each side of the ball. We'll go through 22 drafts, and every draft will get an Ohio State player, and then we'll be ready to win.
Right. Well, I mean, but you also have to take in consideration like 22. So probably the guys that you drafted early on, like Paris Johnson Jr. after a long, illustrious career, but not
he's going to retire.
Winning. He'll retire, but then you just have to continue on.
Forever rebuilding. Away. It's the 20-year rebuild plan. A team that doesn't rebuild often, San Francisco. These are some notable injuries that, like, if you read kind of through the tea leaves with San Francisco and their beat reporters, they're going to miss some significant players this weekend. And I have a theory on it, but Bo, walk us through who's playing, who's not.
Yeah, let's take a look at this injury report. So Gross Matos, he's out. Flanagan fouls. Is that your U of A boy?
Yeah, he's from Tucson.
He's out.
Represent.
Represent.
Lame.
Just not this week. He's out. But then you start to get into some very interesting names like Fred Warner and George Kittle being questionable for this. The other guys, Jacob Cowing, another. He's the true mayor of Maricopa, went to Tucson for a couple of years, played for the Wildcats at a high level.
We don't acknowledge that.
Still a rookie.
Baby.
Yeah,
times
represent.
2.
But Kittle and Warner, man, and that like the middle of the field, they dominate on both sides of the football. That would be, start to narrow some gaps that you view the Cardinals have going against the Niners. It's not the great equalizer. I mean, it's still significantly better roster for the Niners than the Cardinals at this point.
I think there's some momentum that Warner and Kittle will not play. Warner is the bigger loss because the receiving core for San Francisco, even without Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, and now Juwan Jennings, and Purdy's playing well, and you've got Trent Williams. Like, I think the offense has enough. I mean, the Cardinals lost the receivers that beat them last week for Washington or borderline and like practice squad players. Mm-hmm. But I think defensively, like Cardinals should be able to take advantage of if Fred Warner's not playing. Now I have a theory, and it pains me to say this because it's like, do the Niners think so little of what the Cardinals are trotting out now?
Yeah.
If you look ahead to next week, who do they play on a short week on the road Thursday Night Football? They play Seattle, a divisional game, a key game in the division race.
Yep.
I feel like that we're seeing this. We got a little bit with Buffalo too. Buffalo did this week 1, then they went and played Miami on the road on Thursday night. Buffalo sat players in preparation for Miami. Are the Niners sitting players in preparation? What a slap in the face for the Arizona Cardinals. It's like, we think that little of you.
Yeah.
Players that are on the fringe, we're just going to hold them out. I think that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, you even bringing up that theory makes you a loser for thinking that's happening with the Cardinals.
I don't think it's a theory. I think it's exactly true.
It's exactly what's happening. Look, and the only way that you change that, the only way that you don't have teams do that and think that they can rest starters, key players against you, is when you do, you punch them in the mouth, right?
Right,
and you make them pay for it. Can they do that? I mean, you still see where the strengths and the mismatches continue for the 49ers or the Cardinals, to where, they view they'll be fine. And I think, even the Cardinals fan base is like, I'm still not feeling the Cards' chances on the road against the Niners.
Oh man, if that's the case, if those players don't play, and then it's like 3/4.
Fred Warner is a huge loss on defense. He's a massive loss on defense. But so that goes back to our point. Like, the offense has to get right. They just do.
And then they play Green Bay's defense next week, which is not good. But Packers defense is bad, or it's like average to below average. And then they play the Chargers. They have a top-ranked defense at home. So like these next 2 weeks, there is meat on the bone. And like, listen, I think Kyler Murray's going to play well this weekend. I think Drew Petzing's going to run K1. I think they're going to, I hate this term, empty the clip. I think they're going to leave it all out there. So that I think they will put themselves in a position to make this a one-possession game. I have legitimate concerns that if a team has a lead on the Arizona Cardinals and can just lean into this defense and break their will and milk clock, I mean, I just go back to, I'm having PTSD. Gannon on-sighting against Philadelphia last year. It's almost like, are we at that point again where they have to do that again? Like if the Arizona Cardinals, let's say they're losing by 10 or they're losing by 12 and they score a touchdown and there's like 5 minutes left in the game. Like, I almost want Jonathan Gannon just to onside kick with the way that this defense is showing. I know, because it's against the rules now, which is ridiculous. Like, because I feel like this defense, I mean, do you have any confidence it could get a stop late? Yeah,
for our podcast audio listeners, I'm both shaking his head. I don't. I mean, even when they played super well against the Detroit Lions in the second half, when it came down to getting a stop,
right,
couldn't get it.
When the Lions were like, we're going to take care of business here. We're going to take care of business with our guy Craig Morgan here, right around the corner on PHNX Cardinals. But first, I want to tell you about our friends. They take care of business for your boy every single day. It's our friends at Circle K. I was walking my dog last night. It was 90 degrees out. And I'm like, when is this heat going to be gone? I guess I'm going to have to go to Circle K. I get to go to Circle K and fill up on Polar Pops and Frosters for just 79 cents. It's America's thirst stop for a reason. And boy, in Arizona and the Venerable household, are we thirsty with America's thirst stop. Save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Save 3 cents per gallon every single day. It's an exclusive, elusive membership that can be yours for free. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Again, Polar Pops Frosters, 79 cents on top of deals on deals on deals, baby. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com, Bo, for more details.
You have a brand that you want to elevate. Well, look no further than our friends over at Branded Bills. They're going to be able to take your logo and they're going to take their quality and they're going to marry it together with some unbelievable hats and apparel. Start your custom order, start your custom journey with Branded Bills right now. Go to brandedbills.com, and by utilizing the promo code PHNX, you'll save 20% off your first order. That's using the promo code PHNX, and you'll start to take your brand to the next level. Check it out. I mean, hats from performance to the elite. You got the classic snapback. You got the trucker, the fitted. You got kids hats. You got beanies. Shop for all of them and put your brand right on the front of them, right front and center. It's going to look glorious. Or you could check out, maybe some of their hoodies, their t-shirts, whatever it may be. Branded Bills has something for you to take your company, your brand. Maybe it's your softball team. Maybe it's your kids' little league team, their Pop Warner team. You're going to look spiffy. You're going to look good out there with Branded Bills, and lean into their campus collection. You want to support the Sun Devils. You want to support the Wildcats. You want to support the Lopes. Check them out right now with brandedbills.com. Use the promo code PHNX for 20% off your first order.
Love our friends at Branded Bills. Love our PHNX Cardinals beat reporter. He is en route to Santa Clara to cover this team. In just a few short hours, he will be on the road as the Arizona Cardinals take on San Francisco. It's Craig Morgan joining the show. Go check out his most recent article at gophnx.com, the famous Outside the Nest, talking to 49ers beat reporters for a view of a team that we think, Craig, is beatable defensively. Can the Cardinals defensively get a stop to save their lives?
Boy. Can I just shake my head too, just like Bo just did? and let people imagine what I'm thinking, because I don't feel good about this one. Listen, that you're right. Warner would be a huge loss if he doesn't play in this game. 49ers have a lot of playmakers still on both sides of the ball. I think they're better than they played thus far. And yeah, I have major concerns about this game, Johnny. Major concerns. And we know what happens if this team falls to 1-4. The odds are not better than when they were 1-3. I'll say that.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I know. I'm bringing the knowledge for you. Okay?
Craig, we've been talking about the fallout, obviously the loss in week 4 and, what the potential could be in week 5 with the daunting task going on the road. But, as we try to keep, I guess, level-headed here, some of the level-headedness has already kind of gone out the window as we kind of look around and take pulse of the market. You noticed some things out there. Are we? I mean, I know Johnny loses his mind, but he's not calling for Jonathan Gannon or saying that he's on the hot seat.
No, it's not his fault.
It's not his fault.
I mean, listen, sometimes coaches get fired when it's not their fault, but
right.
I'm reading it locally. I'm reading it around the state. I'm reading it nationally. And I'm thinking, what in the heck are you thinking at this point? Seriously, we are a quarter of the way into his second season. We know what he was given last season. We knew what the task was last season for Monty Ossenfort to just strip this thing to the studs. And you're expecting this guy to come. Listen, last week was bad, right? Mm-hmm. Last week was an embarrassing loss. But if you take the overall picture, how in the heck can you say Jonathan Gannon is on the hot seat at this point? And beyond that, even if the Cardinals were entertaining that option, or if they wanted to entertain that option, I'm sorry, when does Cliff Kingsbury's salary run out?
Also, who would you get to take this job?
Oh, there's that.
Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon is as well respected as you can get in coaching circles. The Cardinals and Michael Bidwell had to court him. He had options. He could have stayed in Philadelphia. They were so lucky to get him. And that's why it pains me, because it's football malpractice with the defensive personnel he has to work with. So, I get it. We all want to sit here and complain like me, and Bo's talking about preaching patience with the rebuild. And in all actuality, it's like we're going to sit here at the end of the year at this current pace. They're on pace to win 4 games again. Do I think they're going to win more than that? I do. Yeah. And Jonathan Gannon's going to have a Matt Eberflus record with two playoff non-appearances, two seasons without posts. And unlike Eberflus, he has Kyler Murray quarterback. That's that. We can spin it any way we want, Craig, but we're going to be at this rate, unless they figure this out. They put together a coaching clinic and they can get this defense to overachieve, and Kyler Murray puts up MVP performance after MVP performance. We're going to be sitting here and it's just like, is Jonathan Gannon going to be like 10-27 or whatever it is after 2 years? I would hate that for him.
Yeah, I would too, but I don't think you can judge him on that.
Again, I don't, for sure.
You talked about the deficiencies on defense. I think they need to get this offense figured out. If they don't get this offense figured out, that's a concern to me, because I think all of us feel the pieces are there to get this going. The defense just doesn't have the pieces. And then you talk about the injuries that have further decimated it. But I got to go on a rant here for a minute, because I get it when people who are around the team want to come with this sort of opinion. You better come with some backing to that opinion, though. You better come with some nuance and support for this argument. But there are some people that are around the team that are saying this, but I'm reading it from people who aren't even around this team. They're nowhere near this team. They don't know what's going on inside this room. They're not listening to what's happening, from the players' perspective, from the coach's perspective, from the GM's perspective. It's just hot takes at this point. And come on, if you're going to make this argument, please have some backing for it. Please have some support. What is your argument for firing Jonathan Gannon at this point? Because he's not winning? How in the heck do you expect him to win with what he's been given thus far?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's absolutely, I mean, and that's, to put a guy and to say he's on the hot seat. I mean, I can't fathom what the talking points or how you even jump to that conclusion. And yeah, I mean, to be paying the Cliff Kingsbury salary and who knows as far as what agreement they came to with the previous general manager who unceremoniously resigned. I mean, that's where, like, when you do talk about the president and the owner of this team and where he would pinch pennies, like he's not going to sit there and say, well, it didn't work in 2 years. It's time to just cut the cord. And is Steve Wilkes off the books? Good. Okay, let's get Gannon back on there and we'll just start the coaching carousel once again. So it's a ridiculous claim. Look, if things start to continue this direction and trend poorly, yeah, I mean, then that conversation can be had. But as we sit here through 4 weeks of year 2, it's beyond premature for the Cardinals. And then we also had, Buda Baker bandied around in trade rumors. Apparently, it was news to Buda, who seems pretty confident in his standing with the organization. Craig, you were there.
Yeah. Buda was like, I don't think that's happening. I'm sure that Monty will tell me, but I don't think that's happening. And I think he's right. So yeah, he, as Buda said, he doesn't pay attention much to social media or Pro Football Focus, by the way. He did mention that as well. But yeah, listen, going back to this point, sorry, I'm still on this. I'm still raging on this. It would be bad ownership anyway to make this decision this early in the second season of a guy's tenure when you admitted that you were going, into this sort of rebuild, a strip to the studs rebuild. But beyond that, we don't have any proof of this, but I think we all wonder if one of the reasons Monty didn't spend that money in free agency is because he was told not to spend that money. And there, like we said, there are the other things on the books. So all of that should come into consideration when you're even thinking about writing this column.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask who wrote the column? Can we put something out? I have not seen. So there are people nationally that are calling for Jonathan Gannon to be
nationally,
fired?
Locally.
Oh, okay. Now I know.
I mean, CBS had him on a list too, so it is nationally.
That's what I try to educate Bo on every day, Craig, on this show, on this fine program. Every single day, I'm like, hey, Bo, I want to live in your delusional fantasy land of even if they lose, everybody's okay. We're all going to be fine. They're going to run it back again. Everybody's safe. And it's like, no. And again, like there is 0.00% chance that Jonathan Gannon loses his job. None. Yeah. Michael Bidwell loves Jonathan Gannon. I have that 100% source. He loves Monty Ossenford. They're not going anywhere, right? Yeah. But I don't like, and I've never liked, and Craig, you know this, the mindset of, yeah, you can just do whatever this year, and then next year it'll be the all-in year. It'll be the year where we got to go to the playoffs and we got to win a playoff game. And what happens if you go 8-9 next year? Do you fire him then? What happens if you go 7-10? Oh no, more injuries. Whatever shall we do? It's like this year you needed to take a step forward from a personnel side of things outside of the draft picks that you had, and you didn't do that. In a lot of ways, you make an argument. Maybe you're taking a step back. I mean, certainly defensively, it looks like you've taken a step back. So, yeah, like I am for like the patience of a rebuild if it means sustained success. But I also feel like in the NFL, with so many teams doing it like that, with Washington doing it like that, when we watch Bruce Arians do a magic act and immediately put this team in contention, winners win. And I think Jonathan Gannon is a winner. But with this defense, he has been put in a position where you call into question like his ability to develop talent, his ability to coach. I mean, like that is the biggest slap in the face. We had to watch our head coach be embarrassed by Cliff Kingsbury on a football Sunday. Like, does anybody isn't Wink Martindale the defensive coordinator for the Giants?
No,
Dirk
he's
McGurk
been fired. Or he left. Yeah.
The Giants defensive coordinator, the Giants defensive coordinator held Washington to 7 field goals. They didn't score in that game. And I think that game was in Washington.
I hear you. And the guy that we're going to face on Sunday, his tenure in San Francisco didn't exactly start out on the same foot. Like he was the only coach that was losing outside of Mike McCarthy to the Cardinals in 2018. Right. And Shanahan
he lost his quarterback in those. He was playing CJ Beathard.
Kyle Shanahan's side of the football was struggling.
CJ. Yeah. Cause of personnel. Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo. He went 5-0 with Jimmy Garoppolo. He didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo. And then, and then he got hurt and he had to play CJ Beathard. Don't compare quarterback to what this.
But I'm just saying. Oh, and Darius Robinson got hurt and BJ Ojulari on that side. It's weird. It's weird how that is. When I
look at in the NFL defensively, they're last.
I know we've talked about this before with Monty's decision. What I'd really like to know when I wrote this, I'd really like to know his thought process, guys.
Yeah,
it would really be nice. I think it would be helpful if Monty Ossenfort brought the public into the fold and said, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm seeing. This is our timeline. Explain the thought process behind it. Explain why maybe you didn't go all in on the defense this offseason versus doing it next season. I'm not saying everybody's going to buy in. Certain people will never buy into losing. They're just going to complain because some people are just miserable people. But if you bring some people into the fold, I think you buy yourself more time. I hate to cite my hockey background here because you guys don't want to hear it. But Bill Armstrong did this with the Coyotes. And you can't think of a greater train wreck of a franchise. You can't think of a greater train wreck of a franchise than the Coyotes. And somehow Bill Armstrong got the fan base on board with this idea. Okay, it's going to take 4, 5, 6 years. I'm not saying it should take this long in the NFL because it's really hard to stink for 3 straight seasons in the NFL.
It's really hard.
Yeah. But if he says, okay, we're thinking 3 years, here's our thought process, here are the details, I think that would really help. I really don't understand why he's so quiet on all of this, why he just keeps people in the dark.
But there have been examples where Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort have been very transparent about how they're rebuilding this.
They draft in generalizations, Bo. I'm talking about details here.
Jonathan Gannon also came on this show and looked Bo and I in the eye at the combine when we interviewed him and said, we lost too many games last year. So it's like, you can rebuild till the cows come home. You got to win games, man. This is the NFL. This is not, respectfully, some of these other leagues, when there are so many games, you can talk about, the Coyotes stunk it up for the first half of the season, but look at the record since X date. We do that all the time in baseball. Since the All-Star break, they're 10 games above 500. You can't play. This is the NFL. It is cut and dry about, are you relevant? Do you have national TV games? Are you above 500? Are you playing in January? Right? You can't sell like, hey, you know what? This is going to take some time, especially when your quarterback is in the prime of his career, making big time money, and all of us assume he's a top 6 to 12 quarterback. Again, if Drake May's on the bench and Jacoby Brissett's your starter, I don't do whatever you want to do. Lose as many games as you want while everybody gets snaps. You did that last year. You screwed around, almost said a swear word. You screwed around with Joshua Dobbs, Colt McCoy. It was an embarrassment, but we all ate it because in preparation for the step forward, you're taking steps back. You cannot dispute that. This team is regressing from what they did last year, unequivocally. You finished almost 500 with Kyler Murray as your quarterback at the end of last year. You're on pace right now. Craig, we talk about it. Bo mentioned it. They are not going to be favored in a game until November or December, maybe. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to lose all these games. But, I mean, like Vegas is telling them right now, you are going to be 1-8. You are going to be 1-10. It's just, that's the reality of it.
Johnny, could they, and by the way, the Coyotes stunk it up for a dozen straight years, so just wanted to clarify that.
And they had like draft picks that were going to Russia for like, we're still in Russia.
Come on, nice lead.
Eventually, they just left.
Yeah, right.
Would the Cardinals change your mind? Could this entire narrative change if they go into Santa Clara and win this game?
100%.
What would you think then?
100%. You win a game that you're not supposed to win. I'm bought it back in. The chat's bought back in. You give people enthusiasm, right?
We're talking playoff victory Monday.
I'm not claiming playoffs again, but here's what I am saying. You're checking a box that you didn't check last year, which is, can you win the NFC West? That's real progress. Like, I think we will all take, like, I hate the Cliff Kingsbury loss. I wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night and I think about it. You beat Kyle Shanahan, which you play Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay every year. Now we're cooking with something. But does anybody think that's going to happen? Like, I was texting somebody earlier today. It's just like, how does that happen? If unless Purdy implodes, like, come on.
There's dead ends all over the paths to victories. Like, it's all over the place.
There's grenades everywhere. There's landmines everywhere.
We put up a screenshot of the text thread we had going with Bo earlier when I was asking for keys to victory.
Bo was just saying, pray. Hope and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Let's get to it. Let's jump into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just heard Darius Robinson is he's going to the KHL. It's unfortunate he's not coming back this year, guys. Bad news.
He opted not to sign his contract. He's
you know what?
back.
It really bugs me also that the reaction. Buddha was okay. Buddha's, as I write in my advance for tomorrow, he's an equal opportunity hater. He hates all opponents, and he told us that the other day at his news conference. But I hate this milquetoast approach to the San Francisco 49ers. I am so used to hearing guys just spitting nails when they're talking about the 49ers. And now it's just another game on the schedule. No, it's not.
Right.
It's the San Francisco 49ers. And by the way, your season is teetering on the brink. I want to feel a little fire here. I want Darnell Dockett. In fact, I spoke to former Cardinals center Lyle Sendeline. He'll be quoted in my story tomorrow.
Excellent.
And when I told him what people were saying, his first comment was, well, that's disappointing to hear.
Man,
I agree, Lyle. I agree.
Because you had a chance to bring in some killers in the offseason, some dogs, and you didn't do that. And you're putting too much pressure on.
Now, hold on. We haven't played the Paris Johnson clip yet.
All right,
Craig,
let me hear
it. This might make you feel a little bit better. We were talking to Paris Johnson Jr. at his locker today after practice.
I am. This is one of those games that you've been kind of waiting on. You know what I mean? And he's a good opponent. But I've been preparing the exact same way. So I'm excited to get out there.
What do you expect from him?
For him to play hard, and I'm not expecting from him just to walk out there and just not really care. Obviously a guy like that, each game to him is a big game, and I know he prepares the same every week. You know what I mean? But I do the exact same thing. Again, not really trying to think about what his process is right now.
So that's him talking about going up against Nick Bosa. And he says, I've been waiting on this game for a long time. Is that what we're looking forward to more than, it's just the next opponent on the schedule?
Well, it's a start. It's not saying, well, do I think it's a rivalry? No, I don't, which is what Jonathan Gannon said when we were talking about the Rams. I want to hear more of that. I mean, I think that's a start. Thank you, Paris, for at least showing some signs of life that this is a rivalry, but I think we need a lot more. This is the 49ers. This used to be a big deal. Guys used to talk about this rivalry all the time. I don't like that it's just being treated. Listen, I think part of this is guys are worried about their brand. They don't want to put anything out there on tape. Don't want to get anybody upset. Come on, show a little fire. This is the NFL. It's a physical game. It's okay to hate a little bit. I want to see a little more hatred.
It's a double-edged sword because you want to see guys be fired up, but at the same time, no one wants to hear from the Cardinals this week. No one cares what they say. You got embarrassed last weekend, win a game on Sunday. And I love Paris, and Paris has backed it up all year. So he has credibility with this fan base. No one wants to hear from anybody else. No one wants to hear from the coordinators, respectfully, the head coach, unless they know who's playing. Like, go out there and push around San Francisco and win a game you're not supposed to and come back and do it again next week against Green Bay. Like, talk is cheap right now for this. You have credibility. After the Rams game, talk all you want, right? We were talking here in the comments. It was great. We were making fun of people. We were claiming the Rams season was dead, and that was short-lived. Turns out we were dead. We're very dead at 1-3.
Well, the Rams might still be dead, but
that's true. We joined them in an early grave here in the first quarter. There it is right there. I mean, listen, you get a chance to talk your you-know-what. Let's do it. But I love Jonathan Gannon. I love the new players they brought in. I think there's so much good here, but they had a glaring weakness. And Monty Ossenford in general, not to get too much off topic here, he has a blind spot right now with adding talent in free agency, and it's holding the team back. But this team may eventually succeed under him, but they're going to have to change some of the way they do things. Like this is just not sustainable right now, in my opinion.
I just think, like, if you asked the question earlier, if they don't have progress in year 3, if there are injuries, which always happen, right? They could lose someone significant and it could derail the entire season. If you come out of season 3 and you're not feeling any better about this GM coaching combination, then we're going to have a conversation. Then you're concerned about things going forward. But going back to what we started this with the hot takes, I just don't buy it right now. It's premature to even talk about stuff like that.
Yeah. And if the general manager is anything like the coach, and I expect them to be different and have different temperaments, obviously, for way different positions in this organization, but Monty Ossenfort is as willing as Jonathan Gannon says he is to be adaptable and to be willing to blow up even what he viewed as the initial plan, then he is going to learn from the mistakes he made this offseason and hopefully learn from the mistakes he made in the first offseason. That's what you're looking for from, people running your organization and realizing, okay, well, like we can be a draft and develop team, but it doesn't mean that we don't go in and try to find who we view as premium players on the free agent market. I know there's only a few of them, if any, each and every offseason. So that's something that you like to see them tweak. And maybe that's part of the plan in year 3 of this rebuild. But look, we don't want to get that far down the line. We got a big game on Sunday ahead of us. Craig's going to be there in person, Santa Clara, Levi Stadium. We're going to let our guy, Craig Morgan, lead things off as far as who he views as the key players in this game for the Cardinals.
Save us, Craig.
All right. I like Trey McBride coming back in this one, and man, do I think they're going to need the safety valve against this rush, against this defense. They really missed him last week, and I don't want to say that was the difference in the game because there were obviously a lot of issues, but I think Trey McBride could have a big return here, and he could really relieve things for Kyler Murray, who's probably going to have to run a little bit this week. I think we'll be okay with that, by the way. Budda Baker, I don't know what else to say about this guy. He's bringing it. He's bringing it every week. I don't think he should be leading the team in tackles. That's probably not a good sign, but he's been bringing a high octane effort every time he steps on the field. I loved his comments this week. I do love the fact that he does hate the 49ers, and he was willing to say that. So thank you, Budda. So I'm picking him as my defensive star of this game. And then what are we gonna see in the secondary, guys? What's gonna happen here with Garrett out? Max Melton played well last week. They all talked about it. Is he gonna have a greater role? Can he have an impact on this game?
I like it. I think this has got to be a chalk game too. I think this is a game where you got to lean on your stars to not only help you potentially win, but to just keep this competitive. Like you're not losing like you did last week and then turn into like, I don't know, Tip Ryman, like, man, Tip, we really need you to step up this week, bro. It's like, look to the guys that are making big time money.
No catches.
Like Jalen Thompson, I think he would tell you hasn't had the best start to the year. He was a great player last year, and he's making a lot of money on this defense, considering how much they're paying the rest of their defense. So, the guys who've been around, the guys who this team invested in, both as a Keim guy or a top draft pick once upon a time, like those players need to step up. And to your point, Craig, like if they're not going to step up in this kind of game, like here's why, like I don't think they're going to trade and deal players from the 53-man roster.
Budda Baker for Hassan Reddick trade? No. Okay.
I don't think they would do that, but I don't know how you sit here and you're like, we're not going to. I genuinely believe it would be in the best interest of the team if it's late October and they've got some veterans that could get them some draft capital. But let's see if those players can help make that decision for them. Go out there and play well and just help them win a game within that we're not talking about being sellers. They're talking about being viable come Halloween, Bo.
And Trey McBride, last game against the Niners, 11 targets, 10 catches, 102 yards. Pretty good performance. This year, though, the Niners guarding the tight end pretty well. Haven't seen much production from that. But without Fred Warner, it makes things easier for a guy like Trey McBride. Johnny, why don't you jump in second here? And then Damon and I'll be the caboose this week.
Perfect. I'm going to double down on Craig's prediction with Trey McBride. I think Trey McBride is the X factor this week. Obviously, or the offensive star, I should say. Again, he was not a focal point in the first 3 games in which he was active. I think that changes. I think Kyler Murray forces him and MHJ the ball early in this game. He's got the physicality you want. You're talking about setting that tone. He's one of the best players on your team. And maybe I discredited the loss of him last week. I won't do that again. How about on the defensive side? Like I'm grasping right now. Who's going to step up? I think Kazir White's a good player. I think he has an opportunity maybe to intercept a pass. I don't think the Arizona Cardinals have a calling card defensively though. So if it's not Kazir White, who is it? Dennis Gardeck and Zaven Collins are not beating the tackles for San Francisco. Zaven Collins is not beating Trent Williams, right? There's no Garrett Williams this week. So I'm kind of picking Kazir White by default. I want it to happen. I want to will it to happen. Can he help prevent this run game? And then I think Michael Wilson continues what he did last year. He smoked San Francisco in that game in Santa Clara for 2 touchdowns. It was arguably his best game as a rookie. You can stretch the field vertically on San Francisco. You can run on them. mean, this just feels like a game in which if I'm Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing, I'm going for it on 4th down and manageable. I'm being hyper aggressive. I'm not giving respectfully DeMercado meaningless carries in the 3rd quarter. If I'm going to lose this game, I'm going to lose it with my best players having a chance to make plays. And if they can't make plays, then we'll have a different conversation. If I'm Drew Petzing, do not lose with guys who are not marquee players on your roster. Go to your best players.
All right, let's get into my predictions. I'm going to start us off.
Did you have DeMercado as your X factor?
I did have DeMercado as my X factor. No, I'm going with Marvin as my offensive star. Justin Jefferson had 133 yards against the 49ers. They also gave up 98 yards to Allen Lazard. They've been giving up decent yardage to wide receivers, or at least one wide receiver per game. And I like Marv to be that guy for this team. I think you just feed him. And I didn't get a chance to say it earlier, but it really does feel like this is the same team as last year once Kyler came back, minus or with the caveat of adding a wide receiver 1 in there. And I think that they'll lean on Marv all season. From a defensive standpoint, grasping at straws, didn't know who to pick. I think Mac Wilson's been one of the lone bright spots on this team. So I was going to go with him, and I think he'll make at least one good defensive play this Sunday, which,
that's the bar.
Yeah, it really is the bar. And then for X Factor, I chose Dennis Gardeck. I kind of was just using him as like the face of the pass rushing unit.
Yeah.
I just think you gotta get to Brock Purdy. The Vikings, for example, I keep going back to that game, but the Vikings defense got 6 sacks on the 49ers in that game. Brock Purdy, it was probably his worst game of the season. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I think if the Cardinals have any chance of winning this game, they got to create some pressure. So I'm just kind of doing that whole edge rushing unit as a X factor of the game.
You mentioned the Vikings pass rush. Bo, who plays for the Vikings pass rush? Quick question. Put you on the spot here.
Jonathan Bernard. Yep.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I
see what you're putting down here.
Andrew Van Ginkel as well, I think.
And
Dallas Turner.
Dallas Turner. 3 guys that were available. Interesting. Those are interesting facts. Continue.
Yeah. Heavy investments there. I mean, they had a lot of their roster already, in place when they went out and did
that. They had Sam Darnold already in place to help that pass rush.
Let's get to my predictions. I'm not going to be roasted here right before I make my choices for who I think can make an impact for the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be pretty chalky. This is, but you need it in games like this. You need the stars to step up and play like stars, including your quarterback, Kyler Murray. And it's been a couple down weeks after an incredible performance against the Rams. We need Kyler Murray to come out and do what he did early in his career and be a menace to the San Francisco 49ers. He needs to be on his game beyond the first drive of the game where they've cashed in now 4 out of 4 straight weeks. Can they make it 5 straight weeks and then some and consistently play 4 quarters of offensive football? It's going to come down to number 1, Kyler Murray for the Cardinals offense. And I think that this could be that opportunity for him, especially with Warner not being on the field potentially for the Niners. Defensive star, I was like Johnny, I wanted to maybe shy away from the edge rushers, but I think that Zaven Collins obviously makes a more of an impact, not just getting to the quarterback. It's not something he consistently does, but can do it in the run game, can do it coverage-wise. I think Zaven Collins can have his number called in a positive way this game. I think he can be the guy on the defensive side of the football. Didn't like anybody in the secondary without Garrett Williams, so I went with Zaven. And then the X factor, Greg Dortch, he's had good games against the Niners in his career. His only 100-yard receiving game went against the Niners. I think that he's a guy that's been slow to get going this season. I think this is a good opportunity for him as they'll get Marv going and hopefully Michael Wilson, but also Greg Dortch. So if the offense gets on track, I think Greg Dortch can be that X factor in that in the beneficiary of that, one of many. So I got Greg Dortch as my guy.
Boy, did I feel the conviction in all these picks. There was so much passion behind this.
The only saving grace is Brandon Staley coaches the Niners defense, or he's part of that staff. So
right.
Let's get to some of these super chats, and then we'll get to our official game. And then we'll get to our official game predictions. I'm going to leave the people in anticipation with what we're going to select there.
All right.
Potato Bread, $4.99. After last week, do y'all think the 49ers will be sleeping on the Cardinals for an upset this Sunday? Well, Craig, we talked about it earlier in the show. There's some Twitter street narratives that they may be sitting players in preparation for their matchup on Thursday night against Seattle. So I would say Potato Bread. That's very accurate. That's what's happening.
I don't know. I don't know if they're sleeping on a division rival. I don't know. I don't see that. It's not like this team is sitting at 4-0. They're 2-2. They need to win games. So I don't know if I buy that.
Very fair. Jason, $10. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level. Now that I've calmed down from last Sunday, well, that makes one of us. We're supposed to lose the Rams game
Friday,
and we're slated for the same here in San Fran. If we can pull out a win, we're still right on track for the front end. Well, here's the difference, Jason. Is the Cardinals were actually favored in that Rams game, but I'm with you. I can understand it, and if you're winning games, you might as well make them in the division. Am I right?
Goes to Pat Tilley, $20. Thank you so much for that super chat. JV was right. Defensive line debacle. He is on fire as far as the injuries go. That's the NFL. When is Petzing going to be held accountable? I am tired of sucking.
I think we've tried to hold him accountable, haven't we? We've been talking about it and writing about it.
Have just been asking the biggest layup questions at the presser. That's what everybody tells me.
Yeah, that's
Winter, Bo, and Craig gonna really cut through it and push these coaches. And I'm like, I'm right there with
what do you have for lunch today?
Yeah.
What's your favorite color?
I bought Drew a cafe mocha the other day with whipped cream. I just put it up on the table for him.
Hey, JG, I know your defense is last, but by the way, where do you get your tires done? That's exactly
Jason, $10 as we try to get things back on track here. Here's something. Is Petzing trying to go with more of a conservative game plan because he's trying to win time of possession and keep suspect D off the field as much as possible, and teams now know it? I think they're trying to sustain drives and put points on the scoreboard. But as Drew Petzing pointed out this week, the stats point out, Kyler Murray pointed out, Craig Morgan points out in the press conference, they've been bad on third down, right? And you can't sustain drives. You can't win the time of possessions when you can't stay on the field. And that's the biggest problem.
If that's what's happening, I mean, look at week 1 against Buffalo. They won time of possession handedly, and Buffalo blinked and they had 30
yeah,
plus
I mean, look at their drives that they put together in the first half. I mean, it was 10, 13 plays, 10 plays. They were scoring drives and they were double-digit possession games. Reezy, baby, $10. Swap the names Tyron Smith and Christian Wilkins with Jonah Williams and Justin Jones. If they're both hurt by week 5, we're in the same spot. Bo is right. Can't build the depth we want in 2 years. Thank you, Reezy, baby.
We're just projecting injuries now.
If Kyler Murray goes down, it's just can't help it. But
PR Mac, $2. Any truth to the rumors Connor could be traded? Haven't heard any truth to that.
Hey, PR Mac, you lose enough games, everything's on the table. That's the NFL. If we're sitting here in October and this team's got 1 win, bring up anything can happen. You got to win games, man.
Yep. CBK, $2. Can we get a count of the remaining Keim guys?
Too many. There are too many.
Zaven, Buddha,
Kyler.
Now hold on. We have to take in consideration. Is Trey McBride, did he beat Keim guy accusations?
Well, fair enough.
He's included.
He's included. Here's the thing with that. If we're complaining about Keim guys 2 years into the Austin Ford era, that's a you problem. That's an Austin Ford problem. You had a chance to correct that. You got Keim guys on your roster that are still making a negative impact. That's a you problem. You've had all these resources. I don't want to hear the excuses.
Didi, don't hate me. Hope we draft top 3 in the 2025 draft. I hate you, Didi.
Didi, are you a Coyotes fan? That was always the attitude around there.
Get ready to learn Quinn Ewers, Didi, or whatever his name is.
Oh, we don't want to get to that yet, do we? We don't want to start talking draft.
No, we're about a month away from that. About a month away.
Josh, $5. Our game predictions are coming up. If you could probably read the tea leaves where we're going.
What's funny about Josh's chat here is that Johnny actually was saying the same thing to me and Bo before the show. But go ahead, Bo.
They need to use Tip more than a blocker. Use him as a mismatch. He seems to have okay hands. He's bigger than all defenders except D-line.
The thing about Tip Ryman is that as much as I dog on him, it's not his fault that he was drafted where he was. He was overdrafted, and he was drafted to a team that had no business drafting a blocking tight end in the 3rd round. Like I'm never going to put this on a player like that. If you're Robert Kimdichie and you don't work hard, I'm going to put it on you. But what if Tip Ryman had gone to Kansas City, be beloved there, right? Because there's no expectation. Here it's like, hey, Tip, fantasy option? No. Okay. Bye.
Wow. Looks like a Tip Ryman apologist over here with Johnny Venerable. Vondo, $4.99. Supposed to go to my first NFL game versus Chicago, but I refuse to travel all the way from VA to watch us lose.
Oh.
I need to see change before I sell my ticket.
I think you, Vondo, that's a very sensible take, and I don't want to support selling tickets, but I understand people's mindset of like, I want to have a good game day experience too. So it's like, you got to weigh that. That stinks.
The Bears, though. The Bears?
That's the hottest ticket of the year.
I mean, come on.
$200 to get
if you're going to go to a game, go to that game. If you want to see
isn't real quick, not to get off topic, isn't that super chat exactly what we're talking about? Is like people want to come and support you, and you just look like trash.
I want to wrap my arms around you, but I can't.
Stop sucking and losing, and then guess what? You got more fans. Isn't that great how it works like that? These dynasties that show up, do better, and people will support you.
Right.
Is this just has this evolved into a greater discussion of Valley sports? Is that what we're doing here? Because that's pretty much how it is in this town.
Hey, Matt Ishbia, they haven't won anything, but he's out there dealing, making moves, and it's like
the guy MP's back. Look at him.
I sat in nosebleed sections against the Lakers last year. It cost me an arm and a leg because they got cachet, they got stars.
Look at MP.
Yeah,
he's back in the chat.
Oh,
he's come from his hiatus, from hiding. And he feels like he can talk about that the Bears are a relevant football team right now.
He just got done kissing Eberflus' butt, and now he's ready to join us in the chat. He's like, we're the best looking 2-2 team in the league. Loso, $2. Whenever we wear black, we get beat.
I think that's right. Did you see that somebody picked up a couple of our tweets, and anytime that Kyler says he got our butts kicked, it turns into a win the next week.
Yeah, I'm questioning that methodology. I don't trust that at all. I don't trust that they've done the research there.
That's Manalytics right there. That'd be Manalytics at play right there. Not analytics, but Manalytics. All right, let's wrap up these super chats and get to our predictions. We got a $10 super chat left here?
Yeah, Iron. Rewatched 4 games and saw one glaring issue. Rams, we had 40% under center. Buffalo, 15. Detroit, 20. Washington, 15. Other issues like bad passes, drop balls, but this stands out. I think that's a byproduct of early leads, and then they went under center against the Rams, and they, grinded clock in the second half. I wouldn't read too much into that, but I understand like the point you're making. I think a lot of Cardinal fans would wish they were under center less because the run game has been so conservative, but you just need a balance like anything else. You need a balance.
All right, let's get to our game predictions. I'll go first since I went last as far as, we got them all up here. It is across the board 49ers sweep, and it pains us to do this. But who wants to explain themselves?
I'll start because everybody wants me to pick the Niners because I'm 0 for 8 on predictions this year, both on game predictions and hold and fold the line.
Road to 0 for 10.
I don't think there's any, I don't think the Cardinals are winning this game. So I'm not going to lie to everybody. You want me to say, oh, yeah, they're winning. I think they're going to be competitive offensively. I think we'll see some highlights, and they'll give us some hope into the second half. And then I think this defense will collapse on itself. And I think the defense and the lack of turnovers and the lack of big plays sucks the life out of this team. And then you feel tight offensively because you have to make perfect plays. Look at last week. Jaden Daniels went down. They scored. The Cardinals matched it. And then Jaden Daniels went down and did it again. It's like, we got to get tight. We got to do this. We got to do this. Soul-sucking defenses do that. And they make you feel like you have to play a perfect game. And I resent them for that. Cardinals lose by 8.
I've got the Cardinals losing by 10, putting up 24 points, but surrendering 34 points to the Niners. You've got the Niners struggling to rack up yak. They used to be the yak boys in the Bay. No longer. They're actually second least in yak, but you see Brock Purdy throwing the ball down the field at a very high clip. And it's going to be a good opportunity for him to get on track with Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel could potentially play and help fill the void potentially left by George Kittle. This passing attack still continues to be solid, and so is the run game without Christian McCaffrey and the offensive line up front. I mean, just the trenches in general for the Niners, it's just way above and way more mature than the Cardinals need to be. So they win this one 34-24.
And that's been the trademark for the 49ers under John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. They've invested in their lines. They are good in the trenches. Jordan Mason is just the latest running back to have success in this offense. It's startling that all four of us have the 49ers scoring 30 or more points in this game. I do think that they're going to grind this out a little bit more, so the score is going to be a little lower than you guys do, and that's because they're going to run the ball. In case you haven't noticed, the Cardinals haven't really stopped the run very well the past 2 weeks, and I think they're going to have a really difficult time in this one. They're going to take it on the chin. They're losing by 13.
I'd love to be proven wrong about this, but I just see the 49ers just running the football the entire game and the Cardinals defense not being able to stop them. So I like the 49ers to be out ahead, to control this game, running the football, score, I think 5 touchdowns here. And then I think the Cardinals will just be playing catch up, maybe make it a little bit closer than it really is late. But I expect kind of a blowout here, 49ers by 14.
So gross. I hate it, but it's about as accurate as they come. I think all of us have good rationale because we've watched this team. And until they prove us differently, then it's going to be a bad time. You know what's not going to be a bad time, though? Our hangout watch party, because we're going to be having fun regardless at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass. Right now, join us this Sunday for a watch party. I'm going to be there. Bo's going to be there. Craig's going to be calling in for the post-game show. Damon, Shane, we're all going to be there. Britton Golden, and our watch parties, they're lit. They're fantastic. Taking the vibes, taking the atmosphere, the food for free. Come out and join us. Free entry into our watch party. We want to spend it with you. We want to talk ball, have a couple of brewskis, drown our sorrows, and this Cardinal team underachieving this year, Bo. Fired up to see everybody. Again, put your link, we're putting our link in the chat. Sign up right now for free. Come to the watch party.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We've got a custom menu over there at Wild Horse Pass. It's going to be awesome, delicious. Got the drinks flowing as they're going to be necessary potentially for this game based on our predictions. It's going to be elite, though. We're going to hang out together. It's going to be like the exclusive member Discord, but live and in person. Join us, the watch party and live show for the away games, Gila River Resorts and Casinos. And then our guy Craig Morgan's going to join us from Levi's Stadium, courtesy of our friend Coach Stark.
Yes.
CoachStarkRealty.com. Don't want to miss out on that. And in our post game, obviously, we give everybody an opportunity each and every week to win a Pit Boss barbecue as well. So game days, despite the team underperforming, they are still operating at elite level here at PHNX.
Thank you, Coach Stark. And by the way, I'm going to leave you guys with this. The last road game that I covered for the Cardinals in San Francisco was Ken Whisenhunt's last as coach.
Ooh. Oh, no.
They didn't show up in that game.
That's got to be some kind of bad omen. But let's start a new trend.
Okay. Well, probably don't want me as the guy covering things if you want to start a new trend, because my track record's not so good.
I beg to differ. If you've seen his articles at gophnx.com, become a diehard. Read his article that just dropped today. We got 1,000 people watching the show. Everybody go to gophnx.com, reads Craig's article, your premier game primer for the Arizona Cardinals at Santa Clara to take on the 49ers. We are back. We got content dropping all weekend on the YouTube streets, but we are back with our pregame show live from Gila River Resorts and Casinos at Wild Horse Pass. We got halftime, we got postgame, we got content flowing here at PHNX Cardinals. Big thanks to Craig. Safe travels, my friend. For Bo, Brock, Damon, Dawg, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you at the game.
We all silly like the mayor.